Chapter 15. My mother's father was the sweetest man I had ever met. He died when I was 7. My mother took a further downward spiral after his death. He was the only man in my life who loved me, the only man in my life who protected me, the only man in my life that I ever loved. My grandmother had long since died of cancer, but my mother had just gotten around to sorting through her things right before grandfather had died. We were over at his house, watching television as he and Mother went to work. Sean was his usual grumpy self. "I am watching Transformers," he informed me as I sat down next to him on the floor in front of the TV. "Okay, I like Transformers," I told him. I honestly did. I was somewhat of a tomboy before life dictated that I act like a lady and like girly things. This irritated Sean so much that he got up, turned off the television, and stomped over to the back door, swinging it open to escape from me into the backyard. Grandfather saw the whole thing as he stood in the hallway. "Little bird, come here." He sat down in his overstuffed recliner and held out his hands for me to assume my normal spot on his lap. I walked over and climbed up to him. I was getting to be too tall for lap sitting, but my grandfather didn't seem to mind at all. "When you become older, your brother is going to love you in a much clearer way to you," he told me. "I don't see how he could ever love me, grandfather," I responded. "You are still growing, and so is he. Right now, your little body is preparing you to transform into this beautiful creature. His is preparing him to become a big, strong gentleman. All that growing and changing causes confusion and big feelings such as anger and resentment to form. Once you work it all out in your body and your head, you will have no other choice but to let all the love in. And that love starts with yourself." He pointed his finger gently to my heart. "Me?" I asked, confused. "Yes, love, you. You must learn to love yourself before you can love another fully. It took me such a long time to love myself, but I did. And look, I lived the happiest life I could have ever imagined with the most precious woman in the world." I noticed a glistening in his eyes. He must have had moments where he still cried for her. "I love you," I told him in my matter-of-fact tone. "Yes, little bird, but that love has already been written by the hands of God. He knew I needed a beautiful granddaughter just like you in my life, and he knew you would be in need of a grandfather. There are different kinds of love, but the most important kind of love you will ever have is the love for yourself. Once you have achieved that, all of your life falls into place," he said thoughtfully. "Will Mother ever love me?" I asked in the bold manner of a child. "Yes, my precious child. Unfortunately, your mother is taking her circumstances rather hard, and is not aware that if she loved herself and took better care of herself, she would see the beautiful gifts you children bring to her. It will happen. Just be strong and patient," he said sadly. I know it must have been hard to lose the love of his life and watch his daughter lose her grips on reality. No parent should have to watch their adult children drowning when all they need to do is find their feet and stand up. The water is so shallow, but the illusion of being stuck in the deep end is way too powerful than the actual reality of the situation itself. "I have something for you. Your grandmother would have wanted you to have it." He gently pushed me from his lap and stood up. He opened a quilt chest that was cuddled in a corner of the living room. Out came a beautiful stained glass hanging picture. It was simple, with a beautiful bluebird sitting on a branch with the sun pouring down on it. "Do you know what is special about stained glass?" he asked me. I shook my head, not being able to speak at the sheer power this piece had over me. He walked to the big picture window in the dining room where the sun was just right in the sky and was exploding into the room with warm rays. "It is a magnificent, beautiful, and colorful picture to begin with, but once the sun's light shines through it, it becomes magical." He held up the frame to the window. the rays coming through suddenly, blue, green, and vibrant yellow as they made the room light up with color. You are like this little bird in the stained glass. When you find your light, you will burst through with amazing colors. The very next day, he was taken away from me when a semi hit him head-on as he was driving to the cemetery to see the new headstone that was placed on grandmother's grave. Instead, he was laid right next to her. Reunited with his beloved at last, but never again was I going to be able to sit on his lap and learn more about the world and myself. The world was so cruel that way. I was upstairs in the attic, digging for the stained glass picture to hang in my room when Sean found me. He was out of breath and frantic. Aren't you supposed to be on your way for your weekend getaway? I asked him. I need you to do me a favor, he puffed. What? I stood up and walked over to him. Help me pick out flowers, he let out. Okay, but you need to start learning how to do this stuff on your own, I joked with him as I started my way downstairs. I grabbed my lightweight coat as the weather was not quite as cold, and my purse. I hurried my way to the front door because I knew he needed to leave on his trip soon. We hopped into his rental car, a standard Ford, and took off. Are you excited about your weekend away? I asked him. Very much so. I want to show you something. He reached in his pocket and handed me a small box. I held my breath as I opened it up. There laid a beautiful engagement ring, cushioned securely within. It had a round solitaire diamond with tiny diamonds forming around the band. It's beautiful, I gasped with a gasp as it did indeed take my breath away. The contributions you have made have allowed me to take the next step. I can't thank you enough, he said, glancing at me for a moment before returning his eyes to the road. I just want you both to be happy, and I know you will help me with my own soulmate when my turn comes. I smiled, so happy to have been finally able to help my brother out and for him to actually be appreciative and acknowledging of it. I did not want recognition, only the fact that he knew I was doing this because I loved him and no other reason. When I get back on Monday, we can do some deeper meditations together. If he is coming soon, maybe we can get some insight on him, he offered. Sounds good to me, I said. I wonder what he is like. He better be good to you. I don't care if he is your soulmate or not. He breaks your heart, I'm coming after him, he threw out. Wow, I exclaimed. Where was this guy when I was in high school? I had to fight them off myself. I have been a shitty brother, he said. I was just joking, Sean. I turned to him and noticed the hardness of his face. I know, but damn it all, Kat, I could have helped you avoid all this pain you were going through. I always thought I had to save Mother first. I should have saved you. He gripped the wheel as he let his frustrations out. Hey, you did what was right. Like we all say now, everything happens for a reason. I had to go through all of this to get where I am today, I said gently. I just have this extreme feeling of guilt. Now that you are back in my life, I plan to make it up to you every day that I'm alive. He was heartbroken with the way he had treated me. I am just happy to have you, I said. Rain started to fall heavily on the car now. Outside it was wet. Inside there was sadness and regret. Sometimes I just can't help these enormous feelings when they rise to the surface. You just have to acknowledge them, deal with them, and then let them go, he said. I feel guilty all the time, I added. Guilt is a normal part of the human experience. Some people transfer that to anger and take it out on others. Other people just swim in it silently day after day until it makes them physically ill, he noted. I was the angry one for a long time there, I admitted. I know, so was I. Then when you left, it was like this weight had been lifted. I was in a relationship with this girl who I thought was amazing. I had just been offered the job of a lifetime. I was ready to start my family. That was all I wanted, to be married, to have children, raise and support them, be a dad. I wanted to make my own family. He turned the wheel slightly as we coasted through a curve, the rain getting heavier. Then it all fell through. The job went to someone who had already completed their college degree. The girl left me for someone with a better job, a house, money. I was completely empty. Mother decided it was time to leave, and we came here to start over again. I am in my late 30s now, and I did not get the family I wanted. He was slowing down a bit as visibility had diminished greatly. I'm sorry, I said sadly. I never knew how important family was to him. Don't be. I got the family I needed. You completed it for me. I had to love and accept you before I could love and accept Cecily completely. And I do. I love you, he said softly. Before I could respond, I heard the loud shrill of squealing tires and bright lights blinding my view. Life slowed down to slow motion as I felt myself leaving my body once again to become a spectator. A large pickup truck, coming in the opposite direction, hydroplaned and was coming straight for us. Sean had mere seconds to react. He looked at me as I screamed. I could not hear my scream. I just felt a slight pull of my jaw and air leaving my lungs. If he swerved to lessen the overall impact, I would get the brunt of the force. If he swerved the other direction, he would. And just like that, my world as I knew it for a brief time was over. They always say that you feel no pain because a surge of adrenaline explodes throughout your body. I know now it is because you no longer inhabit your body. You scare yourself right out of your physical form. This coping mechanism may save you from pain and terror, but confusion and a zombie-like state is what remains. Broken glass. Everywhere, broken glass. Red. Blood. Is that my blood or his blood? I can't feel my legs. Am I paralyzed? Did I survive the impact? The world was coming into focus after it had gone black. The airbag. It did not seem to do much good. It just hovered in my face, waiting for me to move. I tried to move my neck, but then vaguely remembered something I read somewhere on people who were injured. If you moved them too much, you could paralyze them. Was that right? I started small. Could I wiggle my toes? If I did not have feeling in my legs, how could I wiggle my toes? Think, Kat. Get your wits about you. You are needed to do something in this situation. Get up. I moved slightly and groaned. My body was stiff, and the pain was starting to hit me. How long had I been out? I looked over at Sean. He was not moving. His head was turned away from me, which was a good thing, I now know. Sean, I called over to him. Nothing. Sean! I screamed as loud as I could muster. I started to move around more to see if I could get out of the car. I noticed my hand was still clutching the ring box for dear life. I put it in my purse that was still in my lap. It was hard to maneuver around the airbag, but I managed to raise my hand up to open the door. I fell out of the car in a panic. The rain was still pouring. The other driver was not hurt, but was having to climb out of the passenger's side of the truck as the driver's side was crushed inward. I grabbed my phone and began to dial 911 frantically. No service? No service! What were we going to do? Sean could die out here. We had to get him to the hospital now. Where was the hospital even? Did they have a hospital close by? He can't die now that I just got him back. Oh my God, are you okay? The other driver came to my side and took one look at my appearance. My brother, no signal. Help me. I could not form a coherent sentence. I looked down and noticed my shirt was soaked with blood. Even through the pouring rain, I saw red. I looked back up at the middle-aged man with helpless eyes. There was nothing I could do, was there? There was nothing he could do either. The world went black again as I faded from reality. If I could not help my brother, what was the point of living? I just give up. Just give up, Kat. He had just said that he loved me. I mentally called out to my grandfather through the darkness. Come get me. Come help me. I need help. I need to save Sean. I need a miracle. When nothing happened in the darkness still, I called to Corinth. Is this what you predicted? Why take Sean from me? It's not fair to take people from me who actually love me. He was going to finally get the family he so wanted and deserved. You can't do that. He is a good person. Take me instead. I don't deserve to live. He does. Be still, I heard through the darkness. Let the water wash over you. I opened my eyes, and there I was under the waterfall, halfway in a cave, looking out, letting the water spill all over my head. It was cool and refreshing. Everything's going to be all right. You just have to trust the chaos. And there he was, closer than he had ever been before in a vision. Piercing eyes that held such a golden, ethereal quality. I'm here. Find me here. He leaned in to kiss me. My body was flooded with electric pulses. His light rushed through me, making me warm and tingly. I never wanted that kiss to end. If this was heaven, then let me stay wrapped in his embrace. But it wasn't heaven, and I wasn't safe. He let me go, and I lunged forward, gasping for air.